This conference will now be recorded.
Good evening, everyone. I am Rajni Jain. On behalf of agricultureinformation.com, I'd like to welcome you all to this online meeting. Please take a moment to review the guidelines for this online meeting posted in the chat window. I now request the moderator, Mr. Lakshmipati,
Thank you, Ms. Rajini.
to introduce the
Good
speaker
evening,
and start the
everyone.
meeting.
Thank you, Ms. Rajini. Good evening, everyone. I am Lakshmipati and I will be moderating this meeting. Agricultureinformation.com likes to welcome to this meeting Mr. Sai Krishna, the junior breeder at Mangal Murthi seeds at East Godavari district, Andhra Pradesh. Mr. Sai Krishna will be speaking on the topic how breeding is done for oil quality in mustard. I now request the speaker to begin.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is myself, Sai Krishna. I'm working as a junior breeder in Mangal Murthi seeds. So I'm very happy to invite you all to this presentation. And thank you one and all to be here. And let me begin my presentation. Can you start my presentation? Yeah.
Yes, Mr. Sai Krishna.
Okay, so thank you. Thank you so much. My topic is how breeding is done to improve the oil quality in Indian mustard. We all know that the Indian mustard is is the third most important crop that we grow in India, and it is very important to in the northern states where the most of the cooking is done with the mustard oil only. Before beginning my presentation, I would like to thank the team of Agriculture Information for giving me this opportunity and to showcase my skills in the presentation. Thank you. And, let me introduce what is a mustard before that. Mustard is the third most important oilseed crop produced in India after the soybean groundnut, which is of 24.98% total oilseed production in India. And India is the third largest producer of rapeseed mustard after Canada and China, and that accounts for 12% of the world's production according to DRMR. And mustard is basically a ampidiploid species. The ampidiploid means the diploid genome of both the species are accumulated into one species, that is Brassica gessia. So the parents of Brassica gessia are Brassica nigra and Brassica rapa. And here in this triangle, you can clearly see how the entire genome of Brassica nigra and Brassica rapa are combined to form the Indian mustard, Brassica gessia. So coming to the quality of oil in Indian mustard. So mustard seed contains about 38 to 45% of oil, and oil consists of mostly triacyl glycerol fatty acids and some small portions of lipids. Oil of Indian mustard is highly high content of unsaturated fatty acids are present, which is very useful for the human consumption. And it is a healthy fatty acids. That's why mustard oil is most preferable in many parts of the world. But coming to the propositions of this unsaturated fatty acids, it is mostly consists of erucic acid, and erucic acid is mainly of 40 to 60%, which is totally undesirable for the human consumption. And presence of this high erucic acid in edible oil is naturally undesirable and is not metabolized as the myocardial conductance. So this myocardial conductance is nothing but the heart attack, which is occurred due to the high decomposition or high accumulation of the cholesterol in our blood. And there is one more anti-nutritional factor in the mustard oil, that is the glucosinolates. The presence of glucosinolates is 100 to 280 micromoles per gram in the seed meal cake, which is making it undesirable for the animal consumption. So the sulfur-rich glucosinolates causes the toxic to mainly for the human poultry and pig uh, feeding. So the two undesirable characters of erucic acid and glucosinolates is reducing the main quality of mustard oil. The scientists have taken this seriously to um, reduce these two fatty acids content to erucic acid less than 2% in seed oil and glucosinolates to less than 30 micromoles per gram. And coming to the proportion of unsaturated and saturated fatty acids in mustard oil, we can clearly see that saturated fatty acids are not more than 2 to 6% in the oil of Indian mustard, and unsaturated fatty acids are more than 95 to 98%. And it is clearly observed that the erucic acid content is 42 to 57% in average, which is the main reason for reducing the quality of mustard oil. So why the unsaturated fatty acids or erucic acid are useful uh, for the human consumption, but in a little quantity. Uh, so here in this table, we can see that the comparison of fatty acids in most of the edible oils that we generally use day by day, and the rapeseed and mustard oil percentage of unsaturated fatty acids are 93%, 92%, and the saturated is only 7%. And the second most highly used oils in general is a palm oil. In palm oil, it is mostly the saturated fatty acids. Human consumption with the saturated fatty acids are completely unhealthy. It causes most fat deposition in our blood and causes severe damage to our body. So it is always preferable that the unsaturated fatty acids in our blood um, in our food is very desirable for the human consumption. So here is a small example how saturated and unsaturated fatty acids are used in daily our foods and how bad it is for our body. So the saturated fatty acids are generally the low density lipoproteins. The low density lipoproteins clogs the arteries and therefore causes for the heart diseases. And the unsaturated fatty acids, where we generally find them in vegetable oils, are high density lipoproteins, and these high density lipoproteins are very useful, and they escort the low density proteins to liver to break down in the liver. So it causes it gives us strength, and it does not cause any harm to our body. So coming to the main thing, the breeder objectives. Uh, why the breeders have taken this to this is all why the breeders have chosen to take the further step in the reducing the erucic acid and glucosinolate in the mustard oils. And the main motto is the low erucic acid content, which is less than 2% in the total fatty acids. And the second breeder object is reducing the glucosinolates in the uh, seed cake. And the third is the low yellow seed coat of mustard seeds. The fourth is the linoleic and oleic acid contents. So I will explain this in the later on about this fourth breeder objective. Let me go for the first breeding objective of low erucic content. So the cultivars that are having the low xeno erucic acid and glucosinolates are called as the double zero cultivars. The double zero mainly indicates about low erucic acid and low glucosinolates. Almost all Indian mustard varieties have the high amount of erucic acids, that is greater than 45% in the oil seeds, and It is actually very useful for the industrial purpose in the cosmetic industry also, but it's totally undesirable for human consumption. And the linolenic acid is a very essential dietary fatty acid because it is not produced in our human body, so we have to make the external source of linolenic and linoleic acids for the human consumption. But unfortunately, due to the auto-oxidation of this acid, it reduces the shelf life of oil. So the oleic acid and erucic acid content in oil is inversely proportional. As the erucic acid content is high, the oleic acid content is low in oils of Indian mustard. So these are some of the prominent Indian mustard varieties where we can clearly see that oleic acid percent is only 12 to 14 percentage, and the erucic acids are 51 to 44%, which is highly unrecommendable for the human consumption. But these are the um, highly grown or the main important Indian mustard varieties that are grown in India. So the first objective is to reduce the erucic acid content in the oils to less than 2%. For this purpose, um, 30 exotic strains are introduced from Sweden to India, which are having the low erucic acid content. And these strains are crossed with the superior background varieties of Indian mustard like Pusa Bold, Varna, RLM 514. All these varieties are being backcrossed with Sweden or exotic varieties which are having the low erucic acids. Uh, and a total of 548 F1 crosses were made to reduce the erucic acid at the different collaborating centers in the Bharatpur, Pantnagar, Hisar, Kanpur, Ludhiana, and all the universities. And donors with the low erucic acid is donated with the first O or 0, and second 0 indicates the low glucosinolate content, and the exotic varieties are GEM1, GEM2, GM83. All these exotic varieties have been used as female parents and crossed with the um, our superior background varieties to obtain a 319F3 plants and analyzed for the low erucic acid content. And after doing such a wonderful process of crossing between the exotic varieties and the Indian varieties, finally Pusa Karishma LES39 is the first public sector low erucic acid variety that are derived from the cross between Varuna and GM1, and it is released in 2005 by IARI. Pusa Karishma is also the first variety to with the yellow seed coat. The yellow seed coat has a prominent character of increasing the oil uh, from the seeds, which is 39% oil is being observed in the Pusa Karishma. Other low acidic content varieties like Pusa Mustard 21, Pusa Mustard 22, 24 have been developed later on, but the yield is very low when compared to the Pusa Karishma. So the erucic acid is the first primary object of the breeders have been achieved, but the glucose in the seed cake is another breeding objective or the another major step that is achieved by the breeders, which is very essential to make the breeder the seed cake to be consumption for the non-ruminant animals. So this is the Pusa Karishma yellow seeds. You can clearly see that the yellow seed coat of Pusa. And all these four varieties, prominent varieties, are the low erucic varieties that in IARI. So let me come into the second breeder objective is to reduce glucosinolates in the seed cake 2. The crossing is made between the Pusa mustard 21 and NUDH-YJ. Uh, and subsequent generations have been followed by pedigree method to identify the low glucosinolate and lactic acid content in the seeds. So the genetic control of glucosinolates in Brassica gessia have been reported to be under two major genes based on marking information. And Pusa 21 is a low erucic acid, popular variety of acid developed by the Division of Genetics ICR in New Delhi. And NYJ3 is a double low germplasm acquisition. Double low erucic acid and glucosinolates is observed low on the variety. After F6 generation, uniform advanced lines having coronar characters more than 40% oil content and numerically at par or better for lines are selected. Superior births were evaluated in the station trials and the genotypes of PDG, PDZ1, which is a 00 mustard 31, was found better in the seed yield than the checks. That is Varuna Pusa mustard 21. During 2016, this Pusa 00 was released and recommended for notification by Delhi State Seed Subcommittee, and it is released in the 29 June 2000. The genotype of PDG1 have been developed with the objective to combine really desirable traits such as yellow seed coat mainly and the high oil content with the canola quality characters have been developed. And it is the first 00 Indian mustard variety developed in the IARI New Delhi. It is released in the year 2016. The mean yield of PDZM 31 was 334 kg per hectare, which is a 5.49% higher than the erucic acid check varieties that are PM21 and RLC2. And also the yield potential is recorded more than the more in Navagano in AVT1 dried. Similarly, oil yield was also recorded 958 kg per hectare, which is 4.3 to 5.3.1% higher than the single zero check varieties. So our fourth objective is breeding for high oleic instead of linoleic acid in the zero erucic acid Brassica gessia varieties. So why oleic acid has the more preference than linoleic acid? As we earlier observed that the linoleic acid is present in a higher content in the total fatty acids, but the oleic acid have a most preferable as due to the high density of oleic acid and the presence of linoleic acid is reducing the deteriorate more due to the oxidative nature of this linoleic and linolenic acids. So high oleic acid is considered to be the good for the human consumption by its property to increase the level of high density lipoproteins in blood. So oleic and you can clearly see how oleic acid is converted into linoleic acid and how the erucic acid is produced from linoleic acid. So majorly that is delta 12 desaturase enzyme is what converting the oleic acid to linoleic acid. So scientists have been so it is clearly seen how oleic acid is converting to linolenic and linolenic acids. And the FAD2 gene is what responsible for producing the delta 12 desaturase enzyme. And scientists have been trying the enzyme delta 12 desaturase uh, to be reduced to be completely unproduced in the plants, so that the oleic acid will not be converted into the linolenic acid and reduce the quality of the uh, oil. So a zero uric acid variety of Brassica, which is VH48 have been modified for its fatty acid composition and the seed oil with the antisense RNA technology, and where the construction of a PAS FAD 2.2 gene contains 1 to 1251 base pairs fragment of the FAD2 gene and the antisense orientation. So this antisense orientation, when read by the messenger RNAs, the main enzyme that is converting the oleic acid to linoleic acid is not produced in the plants. By this way, uh, with the using of antisense orientation, so the scientists have developed um, to reduce this conversion of oleic acid to linoleic acid. Uh, so this is the table where we can see the parent has the oleic acid for 53% and higher percentage of linoleic acids. But after using this antisense fragments, so in the backcross one progeny, it is observed that the oleic acid percentage is increased drastically from 53% to 73%, and the linoleic and linolenic acids have reduced their percentage. So by this way, the breeders have developed increase the quality of oil uh, and increase the shelf life of the mustard oil too. So at the end, this is my conclusion is about how the erythric acid and the glucosinolates are completely undesirable for the human and animal consumption. So the scientists have taken this very crucial and improved the oil quality for Indian mustard varieties. So requirement of farmer and the human health are the main motive for any breeder, and the breeder choose their breeding objectives according to the uh, human health and farmer requirements. And plant breeders have obviously done a very great job for increasing the oil quality of Indian mustard. Uh, and the backcross and pedigree methods are mostly used to achieve this quality mustard. And these are my references that I have been through. And finally, thank you all for having my presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Sai Krishna, for an excellent presentation and talk. I now request the participants to ask their questions. We'll also be posting the speaker's contact details in the chat window. Now over to the participants for questions. Any questions from participants? Please indicate by putting on your mic, please. Participants, any questions coming up? Dr. Suresh Tagar, you have any question?
Yes, I would like to ask for a mustard farmer, where can he obtain the seeds of this variety that you are talking about?
Yes, sir, definitely. Definitely, I can say that this is IARI, which is present in the New Delhi, where we can get all Pusa varieties.
Can you please put it in the message or something so that we can get the information?
Sure.
Thank you so much.
Definitely, sir. Thank you. So, any other questions I would like to hear from participants, please?
Hi Sai, I'm Madhavi. I'm
Hi, Madam.
interested to know what is canola standards.
Okay. The canola standards is a major oilseed produced in Canada and the USA. So earlier, the canola is also a brassica species where the erucic acid is a major drawback for the canola production for consumption in the US and Canada. So scientists have tried to reduce the erucic acid in the canola and successfully made the low standards of erucic and glucosinolates in the canola. And, by taking inspiration from the scientists from Canada, we Indians have finally made this canola standards where uh, less than 2% of erucic acid in oil seeds and less than 330 micromoles of glucosinolates is the standards for Indian mustard for the human consumption. So that is what the canola standards mean.
Thank you for answering, and that's really nice presentation and informative.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions, please. Next question. Mr. Purnachandra Prasad, do you have any question? Mr. Suraj?
No, sir. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Purnachandra Prasad. No question. Okay. Mr. Kamesh? What about Ms. Lalita? Okay, no questions forthcoming. Maybe any questions coming up later would be addressed to the speaker whose contact details have been given in the chat window. Right now it's time to close now. That's all we have for the day. I would like to thank the speaker, Mr. Sai Krishna, on behalf of Agricultural Information for taking his time to speak with us. I now request the organizer of the meeting, Ms. Rajini Jain, to please close the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I would like to address my thanks for the agri information to give me this exciting offer to present in your webinar. Thank you, ma'am.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Mr. Lakshmipati, I posted one question by Mr. Kamlesh. Can you please check that in the chat window?
Mr. Sai Krishna, I would like to read one question. I am.
Yes, sir.
Can you let me know the role of back cross method? There's a question from a participant. Please answer.
Okay. The backcross is generally used when a high standard or when a high yielding variety has every character that is suitable for the farmer or production, but lacks in a single but have one undesirable character. So in the mustard, where high yielding and high resistance to stress and quality is achieved, but the one drawback with erucic acid content in the oil is major drawback in the Indian mustard. So the backcross method is followed to develop that character which is not present in the parents by crossing with the donor parents. And so the backcross method is used for developing this specific character in a high yielding variety. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Sai Krishna, for answering that. Now I request the organizer to close the meeting.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Lakshmipati. I'd like to thank the speaker, Mr. Sai Krishna, for taking the time to talk with us. I'd also like to thank all the participants for their time. The meeting will now be closed.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a nice day.